All right, well, let's start the meeting. It's 5, you go, 5:30. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I am going to make a few remarks regarding how we got here, and I would like to keep my remarks all positive, and then I'm going to conclude with a recommendation. If we're able to conclude our vote, then we'll immediately go to that, and if that's the case, then I think this will be a relatively short meeting. So first, I've already covered that we want to be able to be in contact with the selection that we make. I want to thank the screening committee. They did a great job. It was not for us to reach out to them and ask any further questions. They had prepared the applicants. We conducted the background checks, all of that. So I hope that they have not muddied the waters in any way, but I'm quite sure they didn't. Which brings us to the fact that of the 3 that they brought us, we are down to 2. One took another job before we, I think even before we completed the background check. I'm not entirely clear on that, but Mary Ann, the one from Rhode Island, is no longer under consideration. So that brings us to the 2 that are most local. They both live in Pittsfield, and I'm going to base this suggestion on a few things. One, the fact that we managed to get here today despite communication errors or multiple communications, I think is great evidence that our town departments, our ability to pay bills, the police, fire, all that's functioning just fine. I think it's also, though we can't control how fast information travels, it's great that we all are able to find ways to talk face to face to know what is believable or not. And finally, Chris left us in a great place, and that still is the place where we are. We've improved since there, and I think the person that I'm about to mention probably has the most direct access to Chris to give him time not to have to race to solve problems like paving or paying bills or other things, and learn from Chris so that when he presents at our spring regular annual town meeting, he will be able to be fully up to speed. Even if you're not available at the end of the year, I think we have people in-house that can make sure bills are paid and communications are taken care of. So without saying anything more, I'm going to go and recommend that we select Jay Green as our town manager.
Do you want to go around, or you want to go around the room? And
Can I make some comments?
Of course.
Thank you. First of all, when we hired Chris, Ed and I remember this, I'm not sure that the rest of you do. Our auditors had recommended that we get somebody really strong in finance because we had some issues over the previous years. So we went and found Chris. He was in that background. He had worked for a couple of larger communities in the finance area. So we hired him, and he's decided to move on. We wish him the best, and now we're looking for a town manager. We want someone who brings his own experiences and expertise to the town. My research has shown that we want a strong leader, someone who can support management, willing to work side by side with the department heads. My research shows that, talking to a couple of our department heads, that, as you said, Jay Green, they've talked to some of his department heads who have given him a thumbs up. I'm sure there's others. I mean, like everybody else, we could find some issues as well. I was so impressed with the research that young man had done about the town of Lenox. He could actually listen to a full year's worth of selectmen's meetings. He could listen to town meetings. When questioned, I mean, if you remember, I just threw out the word OPEB and he said $8 million. I mean, he knows where we are. He knows what, I think that, I think moving into that position is not going to be a huge problem. It's similar sized town, same issues. I think you'll have an easier transition and learning curve. So, just to sum it up, I'll say, for me, it boils down to this. Given a choice, I'd rather go with experience, solid references, as opposed to an unknown. So I also recommend Jay Green.
I'm on board with that. I'm not gonna talk about the other candidate. He was a good man, I liked him. But I'm in favor of Jay also for the obvious same reasons. You know, he just knew everything about the town. He's well prepared. It's kind of a lateral move. I think he can just fit in here and just come and do the job. And I think it's just it's an easy move for him, I believe, and a good move for us. So I'm with Jay.
I'm on the fence, I'll be honest with you. I think both candidates have got positive attributes. I think Jay can step in and certainly do the job right away. I think the concerns I have for both candidates is the inexperience of Nick. And I will say that I think I heard twice in the interview with Jay that he was tired and burned out. And that's a concern for me. I think that this is not there's still a lot for Lenox to do, especially in the next 5 to 6 years with projects and we know we have some department heads that are leaving. There's a lot that's going to happen here. So I was concerned that my perception was that he thought this was going to be come in and very easy job, and I don't think it is. So I will support Jay, but I do think there are some concerns.
I too was concerned when Jay brought up the fact that, he's like, oh, I just did 12 years worth of work in the last 6 years. And I'm thinking that's what you're gonna be walking into here. It's gonna be a lot with the wastewater treatment plant, the public safety building, the library, the potential school project. There's a lot that's gonna happen. I found it was probably an offhand comment that, and I really hate the budget process. That's like 25% of this job is the budget process and working with the different departments to suss out, what the priorities are, what the competing priorities are, how you kind of judge that. And so that kind of made me a little concerned. Clearly, he's got a lot of great experience. I like the fact that, he's been the town manager in Adams, but I also like the fact that Nick has been the town manager in Williamsburg, and he really, gave a good shout out to the fact that he can scale this. He's done a public safety building. We're doing a public safety building, so he has some knowledge in that regard. He, having a background in education, says to me that he'd be really great with people, and he'd be really great in working with the different department heads and people in town and constituents. I know that Jay has experience with constituents too. He stated that, he's done the face-to-face stuff with them. Both of them have really great credentials. But I also felt that, Nick was very refreshing in saying that he's really wonky and he really digs doing the job of the town manager, and that really resonated with me. Because I'm kind of a geek too, and I like the geekiness of town meeting and all of that. So I found him to be refreshing and, somebody that might be another Chris, that might stick with us for 10 or plus years. So anyway, I'm good with both of them. They're both really strong candidates, but I found something a little bit more refreshing about Mr. Kakamo.
So, we could easily stop at 3-2, but
I'm okay with Jay because he clearly can do the job. And I like some of his other experience. The fact that he's got a law degree, that kind of gives him an extra an extra piece of knowledge that might be helpful from time to time.
His wife's an attorney in Pittsfield as well.
I know we have Katie Law, but
I guess the only other thing that strikes me is that Jay didn't regard this as a stepping stone for a potentially bigger job. I don't know, I appreciate Nick's, as you mentioned, wonkiness. But I'm not gonna mention towns, but there's other towns that have had difficulty pretty close by or have recently learned that they don't have somebody in place. And, more complicated than us, perhaps, it's perhaps a slightly larger budget. I'm concerned that this is a stepping stone for one, whereas another would be happy to be here as long as we'll have him, meaning Jay.
personally, I didn't find that to be the case because Nick said in his interview that he thought this was like the ceiling of his experience. He would love the town of Lenox to be the ceiling of what he did. I mean, I'm good with both of these candidates. They are both incredibly strong. I just was I found Mr. Kakamo's responses very refreshing and right on target. And Jay's were excellent too, and I'm just concerned about the budget process. That's it. And that's...
Mary Beth, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I liked Nick. I like him. I was impressed with him. He came on much stronger than his resume looked. I mean, I was really impressed with him. But I think, for me, it comes down to the experience and what's best for the town of Lenox. Not to nurture someone along for the next level in their life. We got to take care of business here, our business. And that's why I like Jay.
And again, because we have good department heads, but we can't, I mean, we're going to meet again next Wednesday, and there's already, we got 2 that we can make, but there's going to be school meetings, and I don't know when planning board and ZBA, there's things that overlap that we can't all attend all the time. So I think, I remember in Chris's first year, we used to just say, COLA is the standard, and then, in circumstances where we have to address it, we will specifically in conversations with individual department heads, but, we did that for quite a few years. I don't think Jay is even going to have to debate, 3%, which we used to call, I think now, I mean, depending on who you believe, it's probably, COLA is probably less than that, but I mean.
Yeah, but it is, but we don't want to get into that.
So anyway, I don't think his first budget's gonna be remarkably different given how many the first budget he'll have to help work with us is going to be remarkably different. Because quite a few other things that we've mentioned have unanswered questions from, MSBA matching or not, federal grants or not, lots of other sources that we can't count on. The sources that we know about are our stabilization funds, our good financial position, and what we've already asked the town for. So I don't expect, other than being aware of requests, that we're gonna approve immense new project type requests until we get more complete on the ones that we have in place.
Yeah, it could be a next year thing. It's not going to be a this year thing. Any major changes.
I think it's going to be a much more seamless transition. I just feel that somebody who's been involved in a budget process that's under $10 million and then moving up to 30 million is a pretty good jump. I think that Jay can handle that.
All right. Do we roll call vote? Just agree? I want to make sure this is an appropriate process, and I want to make sure that this can be, again, we're going to set aside time for the actual contract. That will be an executive session. This is purely to select and notify, so that the other the other of the non-chosen candidates is free to move on to opportunities, and one knows what he'll be doing when we get a chance to have him under our employ. Let's go
Yeah.
ahead and vote.
Okay, let's vote.
I would encourage you to make a motion,
All right.
maybe do a roll call vote.
May I move that I have proposed Jay Green, so my proposed motion is to select Jay Green as our town manager, and I'd like to make this a roll call vote, starting just in order from right to left.
Dave Roach, aye.
Ed Lane, aye.
Neil Maximilian, aye.
Max Sherify?
Mary Beth Metz, aye.
And in the end, the town open process has worked. Thanks to everyone here, listening, applied, screening committee, departments that keep us running. Let's enjoy this weekend. Some people are going to have the holidays, beginning at sundown tonight and on through state holiday, federal holiday on Monday. Thank you. I would like to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Let's make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
You have